Where's the G-Wagon? The one we bought for your 24th birthday? My grandmother's voice wasn't welcoming. It was confused. But before I could open my mouth, my mother, Deborah, stepped between us, swirling her champagne like this was a casual Tuesday. Her sister needed it more, she said, smiling as if she were doing me a favor. Vanessa has an image to maintain. Carolyn understands. The air froze. I looked at the battered Uber behind me, then at my mother's face. This wasn't just a lie. It was a declaration of war. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't scream. I didn't stomp my feet or demand an explanation. In the past, the younger version of me would have begged them to be fair. But standing there in the driveway, watching my mother smooth the front of her designer dress, I realized that fairness wasn't a currency this family traded in. Of course, I said, my voice steady. Vanessa's image is paramount. My mother blinked, surprised by the lack of resistance. She offered a tight, dismissive nod and turned back toward the party, assuming the problem was handled. Assuming I was handled. I'm Carolyn, and I'm 25 years old. As a landscape architect for high-net-worth estates, my job is to analyze terrain, identify structural weaknesses, and ruthlessly remove invasive species. Today, as I walked through the gilded doors of my grandmother's mansion, I knew exactly which invasive species I was dealing with. The ballroom was suffocating, filled with the kind of people who judge you by your watch and your shoes. And there, in the center of the room, was my sister Vanessa. She was holding court near the champagne tower, laughing loudly at something a wealthy bachelor said. In her hand, dangling like a trophy, were the keys to my G-Wagon. The light caught the silver emblem, and I watched her twirl them around her finger. It's a custom edition, I heard her say, her voice carrying over the music. Honestly, it was a little gift to myself for surviving Fashion Week. She hadn't just stolen my property. She was wearing my life like a costume. I felt a flash of heat in my chest, but I pushed it down. Anger is messy. Evidence is clean. I didn't approach her. I didn't make a scene. I walked to a quiet corner near a marble pillar and pulled out my phone. My mother thought she was clever taking the physical keys. She forgot that a $160,000 vehicle is basically a computer on wheels. And she definitely forgot that I was the only one with the admin password. One tap, and the cloud dashcam app opened. The screen filled with the interior view of my car. I didn't have to search for the truth. It was waiting for me in 4K resolution. I scrolled back to the footage from 2 hours ago. The timestamp read 2:14 p.m. The video played. There was Vanessa, behind the wheel of my car. But she wasn't alone. In the cup holder, clear as day, was a bottle of Grey Goose vodka. She wasn't just driving. She was swerving. The audio picked up her voice, slurred and mocking. God, this thing handles like a tank. She laughed to herself on the recording. Mom was right. Carolyn is such a loser. She'll probably take the bus and cry about it. I paused the video on a frame where the vodka bottle and her face were perfectly visible. This wasn't just a stolen car anymore. This was a suspended license. This was a DUI waiting to happen. This was grand theft auto. I looked across the room at my mother, who was now whispering something to Vanessa, probably congratulating her on the deception. They thought they had won because they held the plastic fob. They didn't realize they had just handed me the weapon that would end them. I didn't feel sad. I felt like a prosecutor looking at a smoking gun. The trap wasn't just set. It was armed. Watching that video, the memory of 3 weeks ago hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't the first time they had taken from me, but it was the time I finally understood the architecture of their cruelty. It started with a phone call at 3 a.m. Vanessa, hysterical, screaming that she'd tapped a bumper. The reality was a totaled Porsche Panamera wrapped around a telephone pole and a blood alcohol level twice the legal limit. My mother, Deborah, didn't call a lawyer. She called a fixer to bury the DUI record and get the license suspension handled quietly. But Vanessa still needed a car to maintain her influencer facade while hers was being scraped off the pavement. 2 days later, I came home to find my spare key missing from the kitchen drawer. The only other person with a key to my apartment was my mother, for emergencies. When I drove to their house to confront them, I found my G-Wagon in their driveway. Deborah was standing there, watering her hydrangeas as if she hadn't just committed burglary. I needed it, she said, not even looking up from her flowers. Vanessa has events. She can't be seen in Uber Blacks. It looks desperate. I'm taking it back, I said, reaching for the door handle. That's when Deborah turned the hose off. She walked up to me, wiping her wet hands on her apron, her face twisting into a mask of cold calculation. If you take that car, she said, her voice low and pleasant, I will stop the payments to the veterinary oncologist. My cat, Luna, was 3 weeks into a chemotherapy protocol for lymphoma. It was costing $4,000 a month. At the time, my liquidity was tied up in a massive project bid. Deborah had offered to cover it as a grandmother's gift. You wouldn't, I whispered. Try me. She smiled. I'll tell your father you're having another one of your paranoid episodes. I'll tell him you're unstable. And Luna will die. I froze. In that moment, the curtain didn't just fall. It burned away. For years, I thought I was just the unlucky sibling. The one who had to work harder. The one who wasn't quite shiny enough. But standing there, realizing she was holding my dying cat hostage to secure a luxury rental for her golden child, I understood the mechanics of it. I wasn't a daughter to her. I was a resource. In every toxic system, there is a golden child who can do no wrong, and a scapegoat who can do no right. But it goes deeper than that. The scapegoat isn't just a punching bag. She is the vessel for the family's shame. Deborah needed to abuse me by projecting all the family's failures, instability, and selfishness onto me. She could maintain the delusion that Vanessa was perfect. I was the filter that caught all the filth so their engine didn't seize. They didn't steal my car because they needed transportation. They stole it because my ownership of something beautiful was an insult to the natural order. In their world, I existed to be harvested. I drove home that day in silence, terrified for my cat, paralyzed by their leverage. I let them win that battle because I thought I had no choice, but they made a fatal error in judgment. They thought that because I retreated, I was defeated. They didn't realize that I wasn't hiding. I was planning. I stood in the ballroom, looking at the dashcam footage on my phone. My finances had cleared 2 days ago. I had paid the vet clinic in full for the next 6 months. The leverage was gone. The filter was full. And now, it was about to explode. I slipped my phone back into my purse just as a shadow fell over me. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. The scent of Chanel No. 5 and aggression is a signature blend. Don't you dare, Deborah hissed. She had cornered me near the seafood tower, her back to the room so no one else could see the snarl on her face. To the rest of the party, she looked like a doting mother having a private moment with her daughter. To me, she looked like a loan shark collecting a debt. Don't dare what? I asked, picking up a shrimp with deliberate slowness. Don't dare look at your sister like that. Don't dare make a scene. She stepped closer, invading my personal space. Vanessa is meeting a major brand sponsor tonight. This jubilee isn't just a birthday party, it's a networking goldmine. She needs to look the part. That G-Wagon is part of the package. So my property is her costume? Your property? Deborah let out a short, incredulous laugh. Carol, be realistic. A car like that is a wasted asset on someone like you. You dig in the dirt for a living. Vanessa is a public figure. She leverages assets. You just exist. It was fascinating, really. In her mind, theft wasn't a crime. It was resource reallocation. She genuinely believed that because Vanessa wanted it more, she deserved it more. Besides, she added, her voice dropping to that lethal whisper she used when she wanted to twist the knife, we both know you're not in a position to argue, unless you want Luna's treatment to suddenly encounter a clerical error. She smiled, patted my cheek, and turned away. She thought the leverage still held. She didn't know the bank transfer had cleared yesterday morning. She didn't know she was pressing a button that was no longer connected to anything. I watched her walk away, straight to Vanessa, who was now sauntering over, drink in hand. Vanessa didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed that I was breathing her air. She stopped in front of me, looking me up and down with that pitying expression she'd perfected since high school. Mom said you were being weird about the car. She sighed, taking a sip of her drink. Her third. If my count was right. Honestly, Carol, get over it. You don't even know how to drive a machine like that. It's a performance vehicle. You'd probably scratch the rims parking at some nursery. It has park assist, I said flatly. And I'm the one who configured the specs. Whatever. She waved a hand dismissively. My keys jangling on her wrist. It looks better on me anyway. I'm doing you a favor. You can't afford the maintenance on a car like this. Just let the adults handle the luxury goods, okay? Go find a corner, and try not to embarrass us. She turned on her heel, the silk of her dress swishing around her legs, and walked back toward the bar. She moved with the absolute confidence of someone who has never faced a consequence in her entire life. They didn't just want the car. They wanted to erase my ownership of it. They wanted to rewrite reality, so that I was merely the temporary custodian of things that naturally belonged to them. I watched them convene near the center of the room. Deborah, Vanessa, and a few of their sycophants. They were laughing, clinking glasses, secure in their victory. They thought I was the same scared girl who would sacrifice anything to keep the peace. They were wrong. I wasn't scared. I was calibrating. I looked at the clock. The police response time in Montecito for a grand theft auto call in progress was approximately 8 minutes. I had just enough time to freshen up. I walked into the powder room and engaged the lock. The silence was instant, cutting off the noise of the party like a guillotine. I looked at myself in the gilded mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the scared girl who begged for crumbs of affection. She was a demolition expert, and she was about to bring the whole structure down. I didn't waste time hyperventilating. I pulled out my phone. The first call was to the Montecito Police Department non-emergency line, though what was about to happen would certainly feel like an emergency to my mother. "I'm reporting a grand theft auto in progress," I said. My voice was calm, almost bored. "The vehicle is a custom G-Wagon. License plate CR882. The driver is currently operating the vehicle on private property with a suspended license. I have the live GPS coordinates." The dispatcher asked for details. I gave them with the precision of a surgeon. I didn't mention it was my sister. I didn't mention the family drama. I simply reported a crime. "The suspect is intoxicated," I added, glancing at the timestamp on the dashcam footage I'd saved. "And she is currently behind the wheel." "Units are nearby," the dispatcher confirmed. "We're sending a patrol car to investigate." I hung up. One domino down. The second call was heavier. It was to Arthur, my grandmother's personal attorney. We had been meeting in secret for the last 3 months. Ever since Grandma Josephine realized Deborah was siphoning money from the estate to fund Vanessa's branding trips. "It's Carolyn," I said when he picked up. "We're at the Jubilee. Initiate the protocol." "Are you sure?" Arthur asked. His voice was gravelly, serious. "Once I file the springing power of attorney, Deborah loses signatory power on everything. The accounts, the company, the estate. It's a nuclear option." "She just threatened to kill my cat to cover up a felony," I said. "Push the button, Arthur." "Done," he said. "The digital transfer is immediate. I'm notifying the banks now." I ended the call and set the phone down on the cold marble vanity. My hands weren't shaking. In fact, they felt steadier than they had in years. For decades, my mother and sister had relied on the social contract of family. They banked on the idea that no matter how much they abused me, I would never actually use the law against them. They thought blood was a get-out-of-jail-free card. They forgot that contracts can be breached. I checked my makeup one last time. Perfect. I unlocked the door and stepped back out into the hallway. The party was in full swing. The jazz band was playing something upbeat. Waiters were circulating with trays of hors d'oeuvres. Deborah was near the patio doors, laughing loudly, her hand on the arm of a local senator. She looked radiant, secure in her kingdom. She didn't know she was already standing in the rubble. I walked toward the terrace, weaving through the crowd. I didn't look at Vanessa. I didn't look at my mother. I looked past the manicured hedges, past the infinity pool, toward the winding driveway that led up to the estate. And then I saw it. Through the gaps in the cypress trees, far down the hill. Silent blue and red lights cut through the twilight. No sirens, they didn't want to spook the wealthy residents. Just a silent, rolling approach of consequences. I took a sip of my sparkling water. The show was about to begin. Grandma Josephine tapped her crystal glass with a silver spoon. The sound rang out, sharp and clear, silencing the room instantly. The jazz band stopped mid-note. The senator stopped laughing. Even Deborah turned. A polite, expectant smile plastered on her face. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate my 75th birthday," Grandma said, her voice deceptively frail. "Tonight is about legacy. It's about what we leave behind, and who is worthy to carry it." She gestured to the massive projection screen set up behind the stage, which had been cycling through a slideshow of sepia-toned family photos. "I wanted to share a special video with you all," she continued. "A glimpse into the true character of this family." Deborah beamed, preening slightly. She assumed it was a tribute to her parenting. A montage of Vanessa's pageant wins and carefully curated vacation photos. She took a step forward, ready to accept the applause. But the screen didn't show baby photos. The image flickered, then stabilized into the wide-angle view of a car interior. The timestamp in the corner read, "Today, 2:30 p.m." The room went dead silent. On screen, Vanessa was slumped in the driver's seat of my G-Wagon, steering with one hand while holding a vodka bottle with the other. The audio was crystal clear, amplified by the estate's professional sound system. Vanessa's drunken voice blasted from the speakers, bragging that Grandma's G-Wagon would be theirs once she died, and mocking me as too stupid to read a will. The ballroom gasped as Deborah's voice joined in over Bluetooth, calling me spineless and plotting to sell the car and claim it was stolen. On screen, their scheme unfolded. In real life, Deborah turned pale as guests stared and the senator she was courting backed away. Vanessa screamed to shut it off, but the doors burst open first. Police entered with a warrant. Vanessa was arrested on the spot, grand theft auto. A suspended license, intoxicated driving. Her protests meant nothing. The video was proof. Deborah panicked, but the officers warned her to step back. As Vanessa was dragged away in tears, every eye shifted to her mother. Grandma Josephine took the mic and repeated Deborah's insult. A spineless worm? Then she looked at me and said, I was the only one with a backbone. I thought it was over until Deborah attacked me, screaming that I had ruined her family. It wasn't grief, it was collapse. When narcissists lose control, they lash out. She threatened lawsuits, financial ruin, even death by legal fees. Grandma calmly dismantled her. She revealed that Deborah's house had been collateral on the G-Wagon loan. Because Vanessa committed a felony with the car, the loan defaulted, insurance was void, and the bank seized all cross-collateralized assets, including Deborah's home. Grandma had bought the debt that morning. She now owned everything and was calling it due. Security escorted Deborah out, not fighting, just hollow. Her fall was complete. Outside, Grandma and I sat together. The G-Wagon keys lay between us, once a stolen trophy, now a symbol of leverage reclaimed. She told me the war wasn't over, but for the first time, I held the advantage. I checked my phone. Deborah had sent one last begging message. I blocked her. Then I opened my banking app. The trust fund transfer was real. $10 million. Enough for Luna's chemo. Enough to build a life far from them. I started the G-Wagon, let the night air blow out the scent of betrayal, and drove away from everything that once owned me. The road ahead was mine,